That's it. I'm not doing any more of these big shindigs at the house because after Thanksgiving I spent 9 days unable to walk after cooking all of that time, and here we are. Was the 22nd, and I'm already doing desserts. I'm so God help me. What are you gonna do? Yeah, tell me
Of
about
course.
it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us back here on the Christmas edition of the weekly roundtable, or I should say the yearly roundtable, because today we're going to be doing a little bit of a year in review, as much as we possibly can, given the status of some of the stories that have been breaking over the last couple of days. I'm one of your hosts, Frank Johnson, co-founder of the Liberty Purse Foundation and the ever popular YouTube channel, The Range Report. Next to me is Michael Vasquez, the dragon of the Southern Tier, now residing in the Bronx, New York, wreaking fear and terror into the hearts of the media and political elite down in the city. And, of course, our resident lesbian, Jan Rains, is back this week to give us her synopsis on what she thinks has been going on this week. How is everybody doing?
It's crazy week, and it's pissing me off. We're losing our nation.
Well, you're pissed off every week. So it's not.
We're losing pieces of our nation every week.
Well, of course we got to, and as I've been saying for God knows how long, it's all by design. None of this is by accident. Jan, how are you? Are you ready for Are you ready for Santa to come traipsing down your chimney?
Gosh, to be honest, I haven't celebrated Christmas in years. It's a hard holiday. I mean, yes, I had a birthday this week, but Thanksgiving and Christmas were my mother's favorite holiday. And I carried the tradition on until my son turned 18. And then it just fizzed after that. Yes, do I get a little bit excited? Yes, it's the holiday season. Yes, it's this and that. But it's me. Why do I have to decorate?
Well, it's kind of a holiday for kids and families, separate of the religious aspects. It's a holiday for kids and families, mostly kids. So I'm not surprised.
Well, for me this year has been this has been a very difficult year for me with everything that's going on, and growing up in my house in Brooklyn. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day were always difficult because one or both of my parents were always working. And we always wound up having to have the holidays on days that were not the Christmas or Thanksgiving. It was always the day before, the day after, the week before. It was always kind of weird. But my parents always had the Christmas spirit. And especially my father. My father was the embodiment of Santa Claus for most of my life growing up. And he was always the one that insisted on decorating the house and everything, and I was always the one that wound up doing the decorating. So I wound up with a very bitter aspect, view of the holidays, because it was always me out there in 10 below zero, hanging from the Christmas tree, stringing lights all over the place. And now this year, this is the first Christmas in my life where I don't have either of my parents. And that has been very difficult on me personally, and I've been trying to get through it. And Lori is usually she's Mrs. Santa Claus. Every square inch of the house, no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, has always looked like Santa's workshop exploded. And this year, she just hasn't had any of the Christmas spirit. And I've been trying my best, because I'm like, listen, we both can't be down at this point. One of us has got to, buck up and keep it going. So I decorated as best I could outside. I encouraged her to decorate. She started getting a little into the spirit. We took a ride through a town about an hour away from us a couple nights ago called Christmas Town. I don't remember the actual name of the place. It's every single house in this town decorates for Christmas over the top. They can't compare to my decorations, though. My decorations are crazy, but that gave a little bit of spirit. And now it's all right. Now it's all right. All right, that's all done. Today was gift wrap, and just let's get the cooking going and everything. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. I swore after Thanksgiving I wasn't going to do this. And I'm looking in the fridge. I'm thinking, like, my God, who's going to eat all of this food? Then I remember I got like 12 people coming over. So, I don't know.
I have that, yearly reflection. I think I didn't expect me to hit as hard as this year as it did. But then I remember my sister saying how hard it hit her to know that she was older than mom when mom died, when she turned 59. And, I was like, yeah, I can get that. When she told me about it years ago, well, yeah, damn, she was right. I mean, that really hit me. And so I had this little, I was depressed for a few days this week after my, and then it started on my birthday. And you guys saw the post I put out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, damn, sometimes I hate feelings.
Emotions are one of the greatest gifts and greatest curses that we have as humans.
That actually reminds me of something that's important. Kind of a public service announcement for everyone out there. The holiday season, a lot of people have mixed feelings. A lot of people are finding themselves down right now. Maybe it's because you don't have the family around you. You don't have your loved ones around you. You don't have kids. You didn't accomplish the things you wanted to accomplish in the year, whatever the reason might be. Some people are down. I get it, because it's been a rough year for me. I know exactly how down you can feel. But if you are having that feeling, remember, reach out, talk to people. And especially if it starts getting dark, where you start feeling like you want to do something to yourself or do something to others, negative thoughts, dark thoughts, reach out. There is, of course, always the suicide hotline. Reach out to them 24 hours a day. Reach out to people you know on social media. Call out. Reach out to your friends. Hell, if you need to, reach out to me. Send me a private email on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook, whatever, and say, hey, can I just talk for a minute, if that's what it takes? Because
and I think it's important to point out, though, too, boss, that it's not just if you feel that deep despair. I know for me, it helped me a lot having my roommate, because I've been talking to my roommate a lot this week. I'm not in that deep despair, but I'm in despair. Unfortunately, I get this every year. I have a lot of people with me. It's, as soon as after Thanksgiving, everybody's talking Christmas.
Yeah.
For me, and it might sound a little conceited. I don't care. My birthday comes before Christmas. I ain't focused on Christmas. My birthday's first.
Right.
Okay, it happens to be a week before Christmas, but as growing up, unfortunately, having a birthday so close to Christmas, it was always a shared thing. So once I became an adult, it's like, no, they're separate. My birthday comes first, and then Christmas.
Well, you guys know Pete stops in on the show every now and then. He's usually in the comment section. His birthday's a day away from Christmas. Yep. So he's a guy who got one sock on one day and one sock on another. And it was his birthday gives, he'd get a toy one day, the batteries the next. He always had to split things up. And Pete is there's no secret. Anybody who knows me knows that Pete is the better part of everything I ever would want to be in life. He is the most wonderful person that you'd ever want to know. He's my brother through and through. He's saved my life literally and figuratively 1,000 times. And there's nothing in the world I wouldn't do for Pete. And the only thing I ever wish for Peter, was we were growing up, is I wish he could appreciate, a little bit of Christmas, because I know he hated his birthday. He hates Christmas rolls, but now he's got a wife and beautiful kids and everything. And, he's come full circle.
I think anybody.
Now I'm Mr. Humbug.
Yeah, I think anybody born in the month of December or early January, like my roommate, because she was born in the first week of January. She went through the same thing. You got one present, Christmas and birthday. Here you go. When you're watching the rest of your siblings and then any of your friends throughout the year, they get this birthday party, they get all the presents, and then Christmas comes, and guess what? You get all the presents again.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who I grew up with, one of my oldest friends, Mike, and he's on the 28th is his birthday. So he always had to suffer that whole process, kind of like Pete does. We just usually just pick another day throughout the year, and we just kind of celebrate his birthday then. I know a lot of people like to do that so that he gets a day too, because otherwise it gets drowned out. It's kind of rough.
Yeah, I started years ago. It's my day. I don't care when my day comes up, then we'll talk about Christmas. Okay, it's a week away, but
I got a friend named Anthony who was born on February 29th. So imagine how he feels.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, I know people who were born on Christmas Day. So.
I also have friends that are identical twins that were born on opposite sides of midnight. So one was born. They share everything. Everything is exactly the same except their birth certificates is one day early.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Kind of neat. But those are the fun, positive thoughts in the week. This is the uplifting thing.
Yeah, but like you were saying, I know, like I said, I had, Lori was talking to me this morning. I haven't been, how should I say? I'm up every morning at like 3:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30. I haven't slept in God knows how long. It's like a year and a half now that I have been up every morning at 3 o'clock, 3:30. And she came out into the back porch this morning and she was like, what else is bothering you? Because it's like 100 times I had to convince her to have Christmas this year. That's how much out of Christmas she was. I had to convince her to have Christmas. And then the closer we got to it, I was regretting the idea of convincing her to have Christmas. So I was like, man, can't we just cancel this? I can't do this. I can't. I'm already like wearing icy hot from the back of my neck down, just trying to stand tonight. And, she's like, well, what's going on? What's going on? And it finally hit me. It's like, listen, I went and I baked my family recipe and I sent some out to my brothers and my sister because every year my mother always did the cookies and always sent them out. So this year I did them and I sent them out to my brothers and my sister. And I got 20 pounds more cookies downstairs. I still have to send out. I don't have the money to send them. So I have to wait for my next check before I can send the cookies out. And it was like, Lori's like, what's going on? And I was like, it's hard knowing that this is the first Christmas without my mom. Now, this is 8-9 Christmases now without my dad. And that's already a tremendous impact because he, like I said, he was the driving force in Christmas between my mother and father. Right. He was the one that was always insistent on traditions and stuff like that. My mother was like, I'm a waitress. I'm working till 11:30 Christmas Eve. I'm not going to be home. Don't worry about it. But for her not to be here to know that I'm not going to get that phone call at midnight, that the phone call I got on midnight going onto April 16th. That was the tradition with my mom. Midnight, she would call you the minute of your birth on your birthday. Or if you were at home, she'd of course sneak into the room and give you a hug and a kiss and say happy birthday. Say a little poem in Italian and be done with it. And to know like this year, I'm not going to get that phone call at 12:01 that with her singing Jingle Bells on the phone. It's devastating to me. My mother and I were oil and water. I mean, the two of us didn't mix, but we always had each other's back, no matter what. And to not have her here, I know how depressing that is. I'm very fortunate that I have Lori here. I have Pete. I have all of you guys. I've got my brothers and my sister. My cousin is here with his family. My sister-in-law's here. I got a lot of people, that help me deflect I can deflect a lot of my emotion and try to occupy my time and occupy my mind doing something else. So that takes away from it. But, when the lights go out and I put my head on a pillow, it's me who has to deal with my own thoughts. And it's all of us who has to deal with our own thoughts. And if it gets dark to anybody, if you don't have somebody to talk to, you can talk to me. You can call me up, because as bad as you could feel, I believe you when I tell you there's people that feel worse, and that's not to minimize the way that you feel. It's just to make you understand that there are other people that understand what you're dealing with and what you're going through and have been down that road before, and then maybe have been able to find a path of least resistance and come out on the other side a little lighter, a little happier, a little healthier, and to be able to get through. And the next day is going to be, just as difficult, but you might find you're carrying a little less weight on your shoulders. And the less weight you carry, the less everything hurts. So, like you said, if you need something, Frank at l1f.us, write it down. And if you need something, or text me, 60, and this is the number for the show. It's my personal cell phone number, and I give it out, 607-226-8033. You need somebody to call, you need somebody to text, shoot me a call, shoot me a text. I'll live chat with you. I don't care. I'm up. I don't sleep. So you need something, call. I don't know how, who else is going to give you that kind of an offer? At least I can tell you some dirty jokes or something.
And I think everybody in this group feels that way to reach out, for help, any of us if need be.
Yeah. Sunday, I'm going to be doing my usual show, and I do it on the holidays because I know there's people who got, you need someone to be through the holidays with. I know how rough it can get. So that's why I do it live. And I'm going to be Sunday as well.
And joining us right there is Michael Marshall, co-founder of the Liberty Foundation, constitutional scholar, and all-around good guy.
Yeah. Well, I tried to be anyway.
You have no excuse for being late, young man.
Duty called. I was actually working at a firehouse.
That's DUTY.
You're funny, Frank. You're funny.
You just want to clarify. For those that don't know, Michael Marshall is the wing nut that holds together North America's communications for emergency services. Without him at the helm, your 911 call is not going to be answered. Your radio transmission is not going to be answered.
Dan, we need him in West Virginia.
At least in northeastern New York.
They're having a major issue in West Virginia with one of the cell phone companies at 9/11.
Well, we can't let him go. New York has already got enough problems with infrastructure. We can't let him go.
Not just yet. Not until retirement. Yeah. Then he is out of there.
That's right. I'll be out of here too. I know, Mike, that today you want to go over a few things about the year overall. Before you get to that.
Now, we're going to do that next week.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't have to.
We're going to do that after the first of the year.
Show description.
Because we've got way too much to talk about from this week.
Yeah,
yeah.
You only have me for the next 45 minutes. So if you want to talk about something that I can get on a rant on.
Here's a good one for you.
If you're going to get into the weeds, I ain't paying attention.
Obviously. It's got to be
mass shooting in the Czech Republic. 14 people dead.
Yeah, I know.
Czech Republic has the exact gun laws that are being pushed by the anti-gun crowd here in the United States.
Yeah, the gun laws don't stop. They don't stop it in the United States. They've never stopped it anywhere else in the world. Obama is a liar when he said that the United States is the only country with mass shootings. Long ago, we were actually somewhere around 27th in the world in terms of mass shootings. This doesn't surprise me about Czechoslovakia. People are freaking out just because it's an easy headline. Same thing they do here in the United States.
Well, they use those headlines literally as a means of fear-mongering. Okay, they want to use these headlines to scare the populace into giving up their freedoms and their rights. And that's literally what it all amounts to. Hold on a second. I got to adjust my lights.
You know, it's just the funniest thing is that it's always, you know, these things always come across, and it's always mass shooting, mass shooting, mass shooting. They never bother equating all the mass stabbings,
No.
all the mass fire bombings, all the mass explosions, all the mass killings that go on through every
Cars,
other means
trucks.
of being able to take somebody's life. They never go into, you know,
Or
you know,
the mass killings with vehicular homicide.
Nice,
right. It
France, Las Vegas.
Yeah, but there's a whole reason for that, though. They want to disarm us. We can't have an uprising with vehicles. We can't have
Well,
an
yeah, you can.
uprising with. I mean,
Yeah,
you
you can.
can, but
It'd be
it's
harder.
not
Look
the
at
same
the killer
effect as a
dozer.
gunfight. It's, you know, the old saying, you can't bring a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah.
You know, they want to disarm us. That's what this is all about. That's why they go after the Constitution. That's why they go after the Second Amendment. That's why, you know, I mean, it's all tied together. They can have their guns. They can have their armed security. God forbid you do.
Yeah, it's always about, and more importantly, it's about fear. They use these headlines for fear. Aren't you afraid? You have no way to defend yourself. You are defenseless. So trust us. Give us the power. Give us your faith. Do what we say. Obey. Be obedient. Be a serf. Keep your head down, and we will take care of you. We will let you sleep at night. This is the lie that they use constantly. It's overseas. It's here in the United States. Oh my God. See, did you see that danger? We will protect you now. Give up a little bit more of your freedom and just do what we say. Mind you, you'll never be more safe. If any of the gun laws worked, then in 1970, that would have been the end of all mass shootings. That would have been the end of school shootings. That would have been the end of gun violence if any of the gun laws actually work. But they don't.
Well, listen, everybody's got to give up your fire extinguishers because we have firemen. We have a fire department. You have no reason to have any firefighting apparatus or equipment in your home. Forget about your smoke detector. You don't need it. I'm sure
You don't need a first aid kit.
Yeah, no, because you have
You don't need to
hospital.
learn CPR.
No, because you have doctors and nurses and medical staff that are,
And
you know,
ambulances.
only a short ambulance ride away. You know, you don't need any of that. You don't need any of that. And listen, don't ever worry about your car breaking down. Just so long as you do oil changes, you'll never have a problem. So, you know.
Oh, you're not even supposed to do your own oil changes. You're supposed to take those.
Oh no, not anymore. Yeah, now they're getting to the point where they're eliminating the drain plugs and the fill tubes. So,
it's all ridiculous because again, it's the promise, the empty promise that we all know will not work, but it's meant to. Now you can sleep well at night because you have the soft blanket of lies that make your feelings. It's all about the feelings. You feel safe. You're not actually safe, but you feel safe, and that's more important than actually being safe. This is the era we are in politics around the globe and in the United States. It's not about being effective or efficient. It's about feeling good about being inefficient and ineffective. So long as you feel happy in that second, in that moment, the politicians think they've done their job. Move on to the next thing. It's really sick. It really is. So that's where I'm at with Czechoslovakia. I saw it and I didn't even cover it because it's not news in the sense that not in the way they want it to be news. Like, shock.
Well, we still have to parse out, was the guy a white supremacist?
24-year-old.
Was he a fascist? Was he a Trumper?
24-year-old student, which means he's obviously got to be
homophobic. Was he transphobic?
He's all
he had to be all of those things because that's the only people who actually shoot anything.
Yeah, he's all the isms. He's all the ists. He's 24. He's evil, and who cares? Because that's
I'll
all.
Be right back, guys.
Yep.
All right.
And that's the only thing that ever exists in these shootings. Never mind, right now there's been 7,000 black on black crimes in the United States, one of the leading causes of death in
Talk
America.
about that.
We have no, that's not important. We've had more people die in Chicago than many countries, but that doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. If we could just eliminate Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, just those three, United States would drop to about 100 in the world in terms of mass shootings or homicides.
And then you got the your mayor of Chicago, this communist lunatic, is out there screaming at Greg Abbott for sending more of the illegal immigrants to Chicago, and he's over there complaining about we already have a homelessness crisis, a mental illness crisis. We already have all of these people that we can't house. We have this, we have that, highlighting every single problem that leftivism causes in major metropolitan cities, and then blaming Abbott for the illegals that are being relocated into Chicago that leftist policies let in the friggin' border.
Well, same thing that you see with Mayor Adams, same thing in Boston with Wu, same thing in all of the state of California.
Okay.
None of them will say close the border, and all of them are saying open border, have more illegal aliens, as they beg and plead for more money and try to offload their problem onto everyone else. The infrastructure is breaking. Why? Because this is a stupid idea.
When Fetterman is out there saying we need to close the border.
Yeah, he is.
When Fetterman is saying we need to close the border, fentanyl is a problem, voting is an issue. When he's out there touting like 5 or 6 right-wing conservative policies this week, the left is freaking out there saying, is he was a plant? Is this guy a plant? I mean, here we all thought he was a vegetable. Now he's a plant. I don't know what's going on with Fetterman.
Yeah, he's just trying to save himself for 2024.
I want to bring some context to a lot of this. Okay, everybody thinks that what we're going through currently is new. It's not. Okay, this push for universal basic income was proposed during the FDR administration. These proposals and that's eventually what it ended up instituting Social Security. National Firearms Act, again, a means of getting rid of guns, instituted during FDR's administrations. Base income, universal housing, again, another proposal put forth during the FDR administration. Healthcare, I mean, pretty much everything that you're seeing line item right now by the left was all proposed under FDR, including packing the court.
Yeah, but it's nothing new. This is the socialist ideology, which has been around since it's almost 100, just about 100 years now that we've been seeing the growth of socialism in various aspects. Some are more active, like in China. Some take longer, like what we're seeing here in the United States with the progressive movement, which also leads to the socialist movement, which is, again, just preliminary steps towards communism. But all in all, none of these policies have worked. It's been over 100 years, about 100 years. And in 100 years, we have never seen it work. No one is better off. No one lives better. No one has more freedom. No one can compare to the quality of life and the amount of freedom that you have here in the United States. We are still, even as our system is eroding and fracturing as we speak, because we keep introducing more and more socialism and progressivism, even as it fractures, we still lead the world in quality of life and amount of freedom that is unsurpassed in the history of mankind.
Well, here's one thing that I want to bring note of. Okay. And we've talked about this in the past too. Okay. The idea of taxing the rich,
Mhm.
and all that, and breaking up the accumulation of wealth, again, was another proposal put forth during the FDR administration. Okay. At that time, okay, $1 million a year was considered an astronomical amount of money to earn. And the proposal that was put forth was all earnings over $1 million a year would be automatically forfeited, along with extremely high taxes upon the rich. Well, as you know, that didn't go through. They did try to impose super high taxes on the rich, and they soon found out that they were actually costing themselves money instead of actually gaining money in that, because a lot of the rich found other means of accumulating rich through sources outside of the United States. So it's really started to have a major impact on our economy.
Well, poor people don't start businesses. Just reality for people on the left that don't realize this. Poor people don't start businesses. They don't make economies work. It's the same thing as illegal aliens do not improve the economy. I know we heard the lie from Nancy Pelosi for years. Those illegal aliens are essential. They're helping the economy. Look at New York, look at Boston, look at Chicago, look at California. Are any of these economies doing well? No, but they're flooded with illegal aliens. There you go. There's your answer.
Why didn't they help the economies of the countries from whence they came? They're all coming from broken third world economies. If they were so beneficial to the,
good
if
majority of them are, yeah.
live off the system is beneficial to you, then why aren't their socialist countries booming economically?
Why haven't they ever
be here?
Keyword, ever. Why have they never been booming or leading the world? It's not just now.
And they would try to have you believe that places like Denmark, Sweden, which are capitalist countries, they would try to have you believe that they are socialist countries.
Well, they lie
because of the social programs that they have.
Yeah, but that's a lie. And we've seen that Bernie was, in particular, Bernie Sanders was very outspoken about trying to change the perception of Denmark and Sweden and the Nordic countries and say, oh, see, but they're all socialists. And each and every one of the countries that he named as socialists turned around and looked at him and went, we're capitalists. You're out of your mind. Stop besmirching our names. Every single one.
And each one of those countries, if you look at them very closely, you will find out that they have extremely high tax rates, up to 80% in some cases. In some, actually, I think some cases it's even higher. And we're not talking 80% just on the wealthy. We're talking 80% on middle income.
Right. Well, they have a capitalist economy that's based on, trying to raise revenue, but they also have socialist policies as far as universal health care and all the rest of that silly stuff that drives up all the rest of the costs. Well, it's the revenue's got to come from somewhere, so the tax rates go up. Mm-hmm. Now, if they abandon some of those policies and let the people keep some of their money, have a truly free market economy based on that, they would probably flourish a lot more. But unfortunately, this is now ingrained into their society.
We also have to look at these countries that have instituted these types of programs. Look at their population.
Well, they're incredibly small. It's always great because it's kind of like the same thing with green energy. The companies, the people who are trying to say, well, green energy works, whether it's biogas or wind or solar. It works. It works really great. It works great for a city sometimes, not usually. It doesn't work for countries, especially countries as large as the United States, fourth largest landmass, national landmass in the world.
Well-
We're in the top 4 nations in terms of population. Doesn't work.
Listen,
Well,
look at if you
here's
want to
the
look at
thing.
the green economy, look at the green economy through the lens of a prepper. You have these people that are out there living in clandestine situations in the middle of the woods someplace on the side of a mountain that nobody even knows they're there. They got windmills, solar powers, this, that hydro electric, they got this, they got that. But you know what else they also have? A couple of 1,000 gallons of diesel for the generators for when the wind don't blow, the sun don't shine, and the water don't run.
Actually,
Because
That was the
Actually-
point I was getting ready to make.
Yeah.
Mission critical infrastructure, stuff like hospitals, emergency communications, and those types of things don't rely solely on what we call green energy. Okay.
No.
I guarantee each of them have generators that are powered by fossil
actually, yeah.
fossil
Actually,
fuels.
Actually, there's a documentary, Planet of the Humans, which was produced with Michael Moore. This comes from the left, far left, in fact. And when they were looking over the green energy, according to that documentary and its documentation, which is very well cited, and the
Good night, Thor.
science well cited, they tell you directly. Every time you see one of those solar plants, yeah, that's because they have a diesel plant, a fossil fuel plant that is on 24 hours a day to supplement and to back up the solar or the wind or the geothermal or the hydro because it's not consistent enough. And they have to do that. And that's why Germany turned back on its coal power plants when they turned off their nuclear power plants because they still need, because the solar, none of it works. It
All right,
doesn't
well, great.
work.
Listen, green energy is great for all your superfluous needs, for all the things that you want to like. All you, how about you just use green energy for all of the free things you want to give out? You ever see these little scooters they got running around in all of these big cities now, and the city bikes and all the rest of that? These electric scooters, electric bicycles, and all the rest of that stuff. And you just wherever you find one, you get one on it, and you go zipping through town or whatever. And those things plug back into the grid. Electric cars have all of these things that require electricity that are supposed to lead the way with green technology. Let those be reliant strictly upon energy producing generators from green sources, from wind, hydro, and solar. Let those items get powered by them and leave everything else the hell alone.
No,
And then
I'm
one day when
actually,
the city bike don't work, you can complain about why the city don't work. City bike don't work. Well, see that cloud overhead? Yeah, that's why it's not working. Imagine grandma's life support being plugged into that.
I'm actually a huge proponent of alternative energy sources for your home, potentially for your business, but on a large scale, municipal grid, green energy does not and cannot work.
No, it's look, I'm looking to build a facility here in North Carolina. And I've been weighing all my different options about where I'm going to go, what I'm going to build, and how much it's going to cost me. And I've been trying to figure out what I need. And I've been heavily looking into a lot of solar because let's face it, there is no shade in North Carolina. You could stand under a tree at 12 o'clock. You guys did boot camp down here. You know there's no shade in North Carolina. Stand under a tree at 12 o'clock. It's the tree is made of glass. It's invisible. At all 4 sides of a building at 6 p.m., all 4 sides have sun on it. I've never seen anything like it. So I've been looking into trying and say, okay, what would I want to do if I wanted to be as off-grid as possible? You know, to keep my bills down low, if I could look into some of the programs that are available to write off some of the expenses and everything. And yes, there are some alternatives that it's okay. If I'm putting up a 40 by 90 building, and I want to line that thing with solar panels, have 12 inches of insulation on the inside of it, have geothermal, in conjunction with it, I am going to spend more for my technology needs than what I'm going to spend for the building itself, just so that I could try to become net zero. And it's going to take me 35 years to recoup my initial investment. The only problem is majority of the materials that I would need to invest to get that 35-year recoup only last 7 to 12 years.
Yes.
Which means in 7 to 12 years, I've got to reinvest all that stuff, making my 35-year investment plan a 42.5-year investment plan. I'm going to be dead and buried before I get my money back on this thing, and I'm still going to be paying General Electric.
Even on commercial scale, okay? The commercial wind turbines, maximum lifespan on them is 20 years. Okay? They do not pay for themselves.
That's assuming the weather doesn't actually happen.
They can't generate enough. A single wind turbine cannot generate enough wind power to pay for itself over its lifetime.
No, that's been well established. The science is very clear on that. And they don't last. 20 years is ideal circumstances under perfect laboratory testing. Real world, they make it somewhere between 7 to 9 on average. It's same thing with solar panels.
And how many times
usually last 11.
How many times you pass a wind farm, you see 20 or 30 of those big giant windmills up, in a hill somewhere, and only 4 of them are turning.
I see it all the time.
Yeah,
because
We got a huge wind farm by where I live.
Right.
And I go by it all the time, and I see them all standing still.
Yeah, happens.
Constantly see them standing still.
Like, if you're just going to have those things standing still, why don't you bolt some solar panels to the blades, tilt them towards the sun, and recapture some electricity while they're not spinning?
Well, and here's another thing that I want people to
I'm
think
being sarcastic, Vass.
I know.
What happens to a solar farm in, let's say, Mississippi when another Katrina comes through? Or Louisiana?
No, they all get torn up.
Well, what happens when you have 100-acre, 1,000-acre solar farm that you're using to reduce greenhouse gases? Or that's your premise, to reduce greenhouse gases because you want to eliminate carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But you just mowed down 1,000 acres of trees and plants that consume carbon dioxide, produce oxygen, filter the atmosphere, and keep the world alive. You just killed more plants than you're going to be able to recover. I don't know. What is wrong with these people?
Well,
They
here's
have
another
politics. It's about feelings. It's not about facts or understanding consequences. It's all about the feeling.
How come our side doesn't have a little potato face, little Swedish 13-year-old girl running around telling these solar people, how dare you?
Because
they don't get the press.
One, they don't get the press, and two, they would call it child abuse because that's what it is.
Okay, but here's the thing on that too. And another thing that a lot of people don't look at. Photoelectric cells reflect a lot of sunlight. And when it's reflected, it is also amplified, which in turn increases the local area temperatures. This has also been proven.
Yeah.
Scientifically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. They're actually finding out where these massive solar farms are, that the climate has changed in those areas. And they are experiencing extremely high winds and other weather-related phenomena that are directly contributed due to the solar reflections off the solar panels.
Because they've created an artificial high temperature zone. And that's going to offset, and cold air is going to come in. They're creating brand new weather patterns that never existed before. It's meteorology. This is again science. They're not, and this is all predictable if you bothered to look at the real world consequences and actually paid attention to what the real data is. But this is all about feelings. And that's why it doesn't matter, because it's about feelings and control. Well, you don't want to be called a bad person because you're against solar because it doesn't work. You don't want to be the person who gets called out as being anti-science because you're actually looking at the data, and the data says that climatologists have been wrong everything that they have ever predicted since 1958 at the least, if not even longer, that they
Since
have never been right.
1929
Well,
is the
exactly.
first record that I've been able to find where scientists started whistling the bell that the polar ice caps are all going to melt and the coastal areas are all going to be underwater.
Well, you can go back that far. I stop at 1958, just the modern, what most people think of the modern era. And there has never been a prediction that is correct. None of the data has ever been accurate.
You look at that report from 1929, it was probably funded by the guys who made buggy whips and horse harnesses and horseshoes and stuff like that, because they saw the automobile taking the place of the things that financed their livelihood, which was the horse and carriage. So the same thing that's happening today is what's happening. The things that are being funded, look at where the money comes from. It's where it always is. Look, follow the money. Speaking, yes, Peter, I've seen the new Toyota, the news with the new Toyota engine. I'm waiting.
We will see. But before we do anything else, because we're running out of time before we lose Frank, we should talk about Trump. We should talk about Colorado before we lose Frank.
And I got some major things to say on that.
Well, so just to run through, in case anyone in America or watching the program hasn't heard about this. Colorado, there was an initial case in Colorado to determine whether or not President Trump could be on the ballot, the Republican primary ballot, and or the general election ballot going forward. The initial court said, no, he can be on the ballot. There's no problem. He's never been charged with the crime. He has not been convicted of a crime. There's nothing that would block him from being on the ballot, period. Now we have the Colorado Supreme Court, which is kind of like in New York. That means just the next level of state judges, not the United States Supreme Court. The state Supreme Court came out and said, well, no, they believe that President Trump is an insurrectionist, mind you, something that has never been proven in a court of law. That's an accusation. It's not a fact. They believe, but the Supreme Court justices 4-3 said, we feel like Trump is a insurrectionist. Therefore, because of their feeling, you, the voter in Colorado, lose all right to be able to vote for President Trump on the Republican ballot and the general election. And because of state law in Colorado, you also lose the right to write in his name. If you do, they will count that as a non-vote, which is effectively, this is unconstitutional, and it is a violation. It's voter nullification. Straight up. That's where I stand on. We'll go into it more.
First off, it's violation of the First Amendment. Okay. Violation of voter rights, etc. But there is more to it than that. Has anybody asked any of these politicians that are claiming that Trump is an insurrectionist to actually define what constitutes an insurrection?
It's the popular media definition. But Frank, Jan, you guys jump in.
I'm at a complete loss with this. I'm like, this is supposed to be the best and the brightest that the state of Colorado could ever produce to sit on the bench. This is their Supreme Court. This is not some little, dinky backwater town where somebody just voted for the judge because it's the guy who everybody knows is friendly down at the bar. This is supposed to be qualified individuals that have to go through hearings, appointments, and all the rest of that stuff. And for them to come out there and blatantly, knowing what the Constitution is, try to turn and spin the 14th Amendment around on its head and then say, well, it's coincide with Colorado law. Well, if Colorado law is in direct opposition of the United States Constitution, then Colorado law is unconstitutional. That's the first thing you got to be saying is, well, how's this law constitutional?
Well, Colorado doesn't violate the Constitution or the 14th Amendment. Their interpretation is the thing that's the problem. But Jen, jump in.
Well, I just think it's a bunch of horse hockey. I mean, the Democrats sit there and say, "Oh, we're not trying to interfere in an election." Well, yeah, you are. You're just look at any communist country that has charged their opponent with fallacious crap to get them convicted of something, so they're thrown in jail, so that the person with the power can keep all the power. But yet they sit here and say, but the Republicans are doing that. It's not us. We're not he's going to be a dictator if he gets back into office. If we lose this next election, we're screwed, guys. That's all I got to say.
Well, if you lose this next election, I think it's going to be proof positive that we were 100% right in every one of our theories as far as it went to the 2020 election. Because, I mean, when you have when the Young Turks come out there today, and it was Anna Gasparin, whatever her name is on that show. Yeah, she's I don't even ask me why I know that. I think I've seen like one episode of that show, and that was the one that they were criticizing us. When she's out there, it's telling that fat guy, whatever his name is, listen, yeah, the guy who's running for president, who was not born in the United States, he's not a natural born citizen, but he's trying to run for president. But she's telling him, listen, you have to get a grip and realize that Joe Biden is going to lose the next election.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is going to win it. And that things like Colorado, what they're doing are just giving Trump more fuel to add to his fire and to have his supporters get even more riled up because they're just going and saying, see, everything we've been telling you for the last 7 years is true. He's been right about everything. Everything is rigged. They're trying everything they can to steal the election. Now that they know that everyone's going to be watching the polls like crazy, that they're not going to be able to get away with boarding up the counting rooms and sneaking in, huge bins of compromised ballots. Everyone's going to be watching. So they got to pull every other stop out in order to try and steal the election. And you're going to have these people after this. What penalty are these 4 judges? Was it 4? That's was, or is it 5?
It was 4-3. It was 4-3.
4-3 because there's 7 there. When this gets overturned by the Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court, 9-0. Because it's going to get expedited. It's going to get expedited.
Maybe not.
The Supreme Court is not going to be able to sit this one out. They have to take this on. They
could make the case. They could make the case of 10th Amendment states' rights. They could. Do I think that's valid? No. Do I think they will just leave it alone? No. I think they're absolutely going to step in.
What Supreme Court justice is in charge of that area? That's your answer, I think, right there.
Well, no. Go ahead. Mike.
I want to make some things clear here. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they are basing their decision upon the original judge's decision, where he said that Trump definitely participated in insurrection.
That's what they said.
Okay. So this is what I want to take on first. Okay. What is the definition of insurrection? And we can find that in Title 18 USC 2383.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that gives us what is the definition of insurrection.
Right.
Okay. Whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion
Mm-hmm.
or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, or gives aid or comfort thereto, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years, or both, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States.
I
Right.
think the next point in that, though, is why was that written? When was that written? That's what people
I'm going to
don't
get to that.
understand.
I'm going to get to that. Okay. So, what I want to get at here is this literally is a contradiction to any type of First Amendment.
Depends on how you look at that, I think. But my first
A
thought about
rebellion
that,
could be a protest.
huh?
A rebellion could be a protest.
If
Doesn't
you
say anything about violence.
no, okay, I understand no violence, but I don't know that I would classify a protest as a rebellion.
But that's the thing is nothing in here defines what those actually are, what those
Right.
actually mean.
Right.
Okay. They are very, very broad.
Mm-hmm.
And it was meant to be
So,
that way.
if we go by the wording of this as it stands right now, Kamala Harris is ineligible to be vice president.
No,
Rashid Tlaib is ineligible to be a member of Congress.
Rashida Tlaib would, yes.
Ilhan Omar is ineligible to be a member of Congress.
Yes.
Chuck Schumer is ineligible to be a United States Senator.
Yeah, you can say that. Because of depending on the various statements they have, you can go back and pretty much anyone who has ever spoken against a policy, if you were being very broad in the definition of what is rebellion, what takes the form of rebellion, you can basically target anyone that you want as an enemy and say they just rebelled, we're going to silence them, which is what autocratic dictatorships do.
Well, what they're trying to get Trump under isn't so much the engagement as much as incitement and assists.
Yeah, but you know what the
Okay.
problem is with
And
that?
the people that I have named in particular have both incited and assisted in rebellions and insurrections.
Support of autonomous zones, support of individuals who destroyed government property, public property, bailing out those individuals from prison, so allow them to go back out and do it again. Have verbally suggested it, who have verbally suggested that people should be overthrowing the government. That's Ilhan Omar. That's Rashida Tlaib. Just to give
Maxine
you
Waters,
clarification.
get in their face. If
Yeah.
you see them out in public,
Well,
get in their face.
Yeah.
If that is the case, and Trump is quote unquote, it is undeniable that Trump participated in insurrection, paraphrasing an earlier ruling of the original judge with jurisdiction. Then these other member officers of the United States are also undeniably involved in insurrections.
But Mike, before you go further, let me stop there because yes, if we're using the same criteria as a standard, then yes, they're all guilty, except here's the first thing first. The judge doesn't have the right to make an accusation
Well,
and
I'd get to
equal
that
guilt.
too, but yes, you bring up a great point.
Yeah, accusation does not equal guilt. Although ever since Me Too, we've been hearing the left say that constantly, and they punish people constantly as if it is a fact. That's not the law. And that judge has now, both the initial judge in their statement of Trump is an insurrectionist, that is accusation equals guilt. The Supreme Court of Colorado have confirmed that and now even went further in destroying our country by supporting and using that basis as a reason to punish voters, not Trump. They're
All right,
punishing voters. Go ahead.
Before I get out of here, because I got to be out of here in about 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Let's say this doesn't get overturned, by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says that's 10th Amendment, leave it be, and all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
What recourse do the people in Colorado have? How is that going to affect the Electoral College when it comes to the count? And if it does get overturned by the 9-0 that it should when it hits the U.S. Supreme Court, what recompense is going to be paid by these 4 numrods in Colorado that are trying to disenfranchise? How many millions of people live in Colorado?
We're talking tens of millions.
Tens of millions. They have that right there. By making this determination is probably the largest single case of voter disenfranchisement that the United States has ever seen. You are basically telling every citizen in your state, you do not have the right to vote for the candidate of your choice because we said so in direct violation of the law. We said so. What can be done to these people legally speaking? Can they, Michael, you and I have touched on this a lot about when people in political power have the ability to mess with somebody's civil rights, and they do so blatantly, and then they can be found against. Can the people of Colorado sue these judges independently?
Yes.
Then I think that maybe somebody should be looking into that and say, you're denying me my civil rights. This is a blatant civil rights violation.
When they violate or act in a manner outside of their authority of office, which their authority of office, the first premise of their authority of office is to uphold, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That is the first criteria. When they violate that and knowingly violate that, then they lose all of their immunity.
Well, that would be beautiful.
I think
that is a part of their office.
I think a major point to bring up on this issue regarding the 14th Amendment, Michael, you're going to be proud of me, is the 14th Amendment was written to stop any Confederate person from being able to hold office after the Civil War. What does that have to do with what happened at the Capitol? Nothing.
Well, it still is holding today. Okay, even though that was the intent of it.
Yeah.
Okay, and it wasn't long after that the Senate and or the House and the Senate gave a 2/3 vote, pretty much absolving any quote unquote Confederates from serving office. They had a vote and they relieved them of that.
I understand. I get that, but I think the biggest point to make is, why was the 14th Amendment written? It was written to keep part of the country from being able to run for office because they lost a war.
They were being punished. They
And
weren't punished.
exactly, they were being punished.
I get that, but see,
But even then, they still had to abide by due process of law.
well, one, you still have to be charged and you have to be convicted, which has not happened here. That's the big thing.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm going to be trying to be convicted of getting the hell out of here tonight. I'm going to leave you guys and girls up to doing what you're doing. I got a long night ahead of me and a long day ahead. What is next Friday? That's not New Year's, is it?
No, that's next Sunday.
Next Sunday. All right. So next Friday night, we don't have a holiday. We'll be here for that. No problem. But we're not
And
going to
actually, it'll be not next week. It'll be the week after that we do the year in review.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Good. That gives me a little bit of time to prep and recover from the holiday. But I'm going to get out of here tonight. I'm going to wish all of you a very heartfelt, from the soul, Merry Christmas. To our Jewish friends, Happy Hanukkah, and all the rest of that stuff. May the Yuletide bring you pleasant gifts under the tree, or at least good feelings to the heart. Love one another, love your brother, love your sister. Try to be good to one another. If you have no gift to give a smile, give a hug, give a handshake. Give somebody a piece of you and let them know that you're there for them if need be. Because we're always here for you. So until I see you guys next weekend, be safe, shoot straight, keep the conversation lively, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Merry Christmas, Frank.
Right. Merry
Christmas, everybody. Love you guys.
Love you too.
Okay. So, you're correct, Jan, that was a big part of the 14th Amendment was to, in particular, that section of the 14th Amendment was to prevent people that were members of the Confederacy and held office in the Confederacy from holding office.
Mm-hmm.
Provided that first they had been convicted or had due process to prove that they were actually insurrectionists. Okay, they didn't necessarily have to be convicted of it, but they had to have actual proof of insurrection. Okay, and that is done through via due process. There has never been any due process with Trump. Okay, I want to go into a couple of things here. Okay, Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, which is the one that they are trying to use for this. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, property without due process of law, or deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
Which the judges have violated. That's right there.
Okay.
Due process.
So the first judge that ruled on this case, when he said that it was undeniable that Trump participated in insurrection, denied Trump of his due process rights.
Yeah.
As held both by the 14th Amendment and the 4th Amendment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's very direct because, again, no charges, no conviction equals innocence before the law, which invalidates all of this. Go ahead.
Now, the particular section they are trying to utilize is no person shall be a senator or representative of Congress or elector of president or vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States, or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. Now, to address your point, Jan, that you had brought up, is that it was to prevent people that were part of the Confederacy from being eligible to run for office. That is actually not completely true. The only disqualifying part in this is if you had taken an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. If you had not taken that oath and served in an office of one of these aforementioned parts, then you were still eligible, even if you were a part of the Confederacy. Okay, that was the only thing that really, and that's what they're trying to utilize on Trump, is that as a president, he is an officer of the United States in particular. And I do agree with this part of it. Trump is an officer of the United States. In fact, he is the executive officer of the United States.
And I disagree with that because he was the executive of the United States. He no longer is. He's not sitting in office.
At the time that he is being accused of insurrection, he was an executive officer.
Then they should have charged him then.
It doesn't disqualify him on this. If you actually read this, okay, no person shall be senator, representative, blah, 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 or as an officer or who having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States. Okay, right here is the key phrase. Having previously taken an oath. Okay, regardless of whether he was in or out of office, if he engaged in an insurrection, then he is disqualified.
Again,
now the problem is it hasn't been proven that he actually engaged in an insurrection.
Right. That's ultimately.
Well, people are saying, I've gotten into arguments with people. Well, he was impeached for it.
But he was not
convicted. He was. The Senate didn't find him guilty. He wasn't removed.
He was indicted.
He wasn't found guilty.
Right. That's where people don't. That's where people think. Okay, impeachment is nothing more than an indictment.
Right.
That is it, and all it does is it says, yes, there is enough evidence here that this should proceed to trial. That's all an indictment does. That's all an impeachment does.
But Mike, you understand what they're trying to do, and this is what they're saying to you, Jan, is they don't understand the Constitution or the laws of the United States. They don't understand impeachment. People think impeachment, again, it goes to accusation equals guilt. It's just another way of wording it. Impeachment equals guilt. No, it never meant that. It isn't that. But they've pushed it into the mindset, the pop culture mindset, that impeachment equals guilt, accusation equals guilt. None of that is true. Trump was never convicted. In fact, if you want to get into it, he was tried on the idea and found innocent.
Yeah,
period.
He's exonerated.
Yeah, he's completely exonerated. So to say, oh, well, these judges have introduced their personal feelings because they have no fact, and all facts controvert what they feel, which is a perversion of our legal system. And then to compound it, and this goes back to a comment from Joanne, I just want to really touch on that real quick, where she says state law shouldn't violate federal law. It doesn't. This is the addition to
I'm going to challenge you here a little bit on that, Joanne and Michael, but go ahead and finish your statement.
Well, I'm saying that Colorado doesn't violate. It adds an additional. The way they've worded it, it complements, or it's meant to complement federal law. But again, it's the application, and I think Colorado's law is wrong. You don't have the right, based on feelings or fact, to deny me my vote, regardless of whatever the state says. I can vote for anything I want to. That's part of the First Amendment. And I think that, but to have this, the initial problem, and this is where they try to get past this as fast as possible. We're seeing this in California, New York, all the bluer than blue states, all the progressives. They're trying to run past this as fast as possible, saying insurrection equals guilt. So and you know, he was accused, so therefore he must be guilty. And they're running as fast as they can, so no one stops to think and go, your first statement is wrong. Your premise is wrong. This is unconstitutional. You are abusing voters. This isn't going to stop. Trump may not win. He's never going to win California or New York, bluer than blue.
Or Colorado.
Or Colorado. He's not winning those states. You take him off the ballot. You know who might win? RFK. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. might win. Instead, Biden will still lose. You'll see the third party candidate, independent, RFK Jr. He'll win.
I would actually like to see that.
So would I, because I think that changes our future.
And honestly, I would like to see RFK in this election. I would like to see RFK to take enough electoral votes to deny both parties a majority.
Well, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But what will happen is if they
take Trump off the ballot in California, potentially off the ballot. Well, he's supposedly off the ballot in Colorado. If he comes off the ballot in Illinois and in New York, yeah, RFK could take enough.
He could, but I don't think he'll get all of those states. But I think he would get one or two, and that's enough to disrupt the system. And I think it's also a denouncement of Biden, because Democrats overwhelmingly for years now have been, the rank and file been telling us they don't want him. They don't think he's doing a good job. But looking at this isn't going to prevent Trump from winning. These are states we're talking about that no one, the political math happening in the background in the campaigns, they've already assumed losses with all of these states. They don't affect whether or not Trump wins. But this will be a precedent to say this is a reason to take away the right of you, the citizen, in the future. You don't get to have a choice. Your voice is meaningless. They're nullifying you. That's why I'm so upset about this. I don't care if people vote for Trump or not. That's your personal choice.
Here's honestly what's going to end up happening. And let's play my scenario out. Let's say that they do get Trump off the majority of the blue states.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which most of those cases have been refused because of procedural problems.
Mm.
But let's say they do manage to get him off the ballot in most of the blue states.
Bluer than blue. Right. Deep progressive states.
Okay. And RFK takes, let's say, 3/4, which he may or may not, but let's say he does. And there are some purple states where they really don't want Biden. They don't want Trump.
Quite a few. Yeah.
Okay. So that gives RFK a leg up there.
Pennsylvania.
So
Ohio.
let's say that it comes down to it where RFK takes just enough to deny both Trump and Biden a majority. And it goes to the House for a vote.
Yeah. No one hits 270, which is pretty easy you can do that. It's like 50. He needs like 50, less than 50 actually. But yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Okay. So, and nobody gets that majority
hmm
of electoral votes. Goes to the House. Trump's going to win.
Well, we have Republicans in. With the current configuration, yes, he would win. And you'd see massive lawsuits and Democrats be fighting all day long. But
No, there is no lawsuits after that.
no, trust me, they'd have, I
The
guarantee you.
lawsuits are going to happen under the electoral section. Okay. When it goes to vote in the House, there's no lawsuits left.
No, they'll do the same thing that they did in 2000, the same thing they did in 2012. They'll go into when it goes, same thing that happened in 2016. When it goes in, actually in 2020, when it goes in to the House, they're going to contest it. You'll see them come out onto the floor and contest it. This is what they did before. They did that in 2000.
Right.
They
But
did that in
again,
2016.
They can contest it all they want. Okay. But if they cannot pull a majority of electoral votes, it still proceeds to the House. What happens in the House? Each state gets a single vote.
Yeah.
Not according to representation. Each state gets a single vote. And if each state has a single vote, Trump will win.
By the way, I was doing the electoral and I was wrong. You don't even need 50. You need somewhere around 20-ish. Roughly about between 20 and 50. Depends on how you do the math, but I'm doing quick math here. Looks like because there's 538 electoral votes, you need 270 to win. A perfect down the line would be 269. So to prevent either one of them to get over the top.
Well, it's 535.
538, I thought. But roughly it works out to about 20 votes, depending on how you do creative math, maybe 50, but 20 electors, which is basically 2 states, depending on which state you're talking
Actually, if he takes California, it's 1.
Yeah, but
plus a small state.
Yeah, but I'm not really counting them. But it could be as easy as 2 states. Literally, 2 states could do it. I understand all of this, and again, they're going to be screaming bloody murder. And nobody in this nation is prepared for the consequences of what we are doing right now. What they have done and the way they have done it, which is breaking our judicial system, breaking our laws and the Constitution. They have broken everything to destroy voters because they're afraid of losing to one man, because all they want, the reason why this is all happening, in case people are wondering, why is this happening? So that Democrats can print in the newspaper, can go on to CNN and MSNBC and say Trump is guilty. That's all. They want to say that for a year, going from January 1st of 2024 until November of 2024. They want to say Trump is guilty. Trump is guilty. If he's not on the ballot, therefore he's guilty. That's all they want. So they can disencourage voters from going out to vote. They want to nullify your vote by taking away your motivation to vote, to take away your will to vote, and to try and make you believe you have no ability to vote. This is how you start a autocratic oligarchy. This is how you destroy freedom. This is turning us into a third world nation.
Well, and then you got to add in there all these dang trials. I mean, every time you turn around, you know, you're going to try a man during elections so he can't be out there giving his speeches.
That's the theory behind it. Yeah. Although I think this makes everyone I think they're giving him more fuel to win, not to lose, because I think the average, they're truly thinking that people are stupid and completely motivated by our emotions. And outside of progressives, that's not America. The rest of America will stop and will pause and think at some point and go, this doesn't even sound close to legal, fair, or constitutional.
Well, it's going to be interesting because if the Democrats continue on their current game plan, okay, they're going to alienate some centrists that tend to lean left.
Yeah.
Okay, number one. Some anti-Trump Republicans are also going to be alienated. And that's going to throw them towards RFK.
Probably.
Okay, especially in states like California, New York, etc. Okay, where Trump would actually be pulled off the ballot. This could potentially, this strategy of theirs to try to get Trump off of the ballot could end up blowing up in their face and do the exact opposite of what they intend to do, is trying to keep Trump out of office.
No, I think this is absolutely going to motivate lots of people to vote for Trump. It is a statement of fear. It is a statement of, it's an admission that no one wants Biden and Biden will fail. They are admitting it. And we even see there's been several interviews today on CNBC, CNN. There are many of the left, and Frank was bringing it up, even the Young Turks, we're talking progressive all the way, far left lunatics. The Young Turks are even admitting this is an admission of failure. Game over. Democrats can't win with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, which we've all heard consistently in every single poll. Democrats don't want them. They might vote for them because they're on the ballot, but they desperately don't want them. No one believes that they have been successful, and they haven't been. But this is about breaking America. And I want people to think about it. Regardless of who you want to vote for, this is about breaking America. It's about invalidating, nullifying your vote, and eliminating a key component of your freedom. Because somebody said so, because someone had a feeling. And if a judge can say, I feel like he's an insurrectionist, they can say they feel like you're an insurrectionist without a trial, without any proof, and now they're going to destroy your life.
Well, they've been doing it for the last 3 years with all the J6ers.
And they're going to keep going. It's going to, but now you can spread it even more because, like you were saying earlier, Mike, how do we define rebellion? Oh, you have a post. You criticized the government. You're rebelling. What was it that Alex AOC would love to say? Resist, be part of the resistance. Well, isn't that resistance is rebellion? That means you're rebelling. Now you're an insurrectionist. Loss of all your rights.
They've got a big investigation going on right now on John Schneider because he said Biden should be hung in public.
For treason.
That's not treasonous. He can make that. That's a statement. You can do it. It's a public statement.
Okay. So you were right. It is 5:38, Michael.
Yeah.
But here I'm showing polls off of 538.com.
Yeah. Which is a very left-leaning website. Yes.
Okay. So they're looking at polls from a lot of places. Okay. And they give sample size and so forth. So McLaughlin and Associates show Trump leading by anywhere from 2 to 7. YouGov shows Trump even in 1. up by 3 and up by 4 in 2 others. Biden up by 3 in 1 and even in 2 others.
Yeah. The best source for this, and again, 538 is bias. So they're selecting specific types of their polls selection is bad. Real Clear Politics is a independent, neutral site accepted internationally, absolutely credible by all journalistic standards. And you will see they have Trump winning by about, on average, at any given day, somewhere around 3 to 4 points, with the listing of all the major polling, all the major credible polls in the United States listed on down. Trump's, according to every poll and every credible source that we can find, there's always a 1 or 2 outliers, which are usually not credible. Trump's winning.
Yeah, well, even here, if you look, the majority of these numbers show Trump is in the lead. Okay, by as much as 8 points. Okay.
Well, while you're doing that, yes, Peter, I do understand polls are not the definitive answer. And I'm not relying on any one poll or even a series of them, but I am highlighting there is a very clear trend in the public mindset for several years now that tells us where the mindset, and again, it's the momentum and the consistency of poll after poll, left or right, even when you're not talking about the election, but the sentiment overall is giving us a very clear answer, which is not Biden. It's not Biden. It's not Kamala Harris. And the only way you can get to, well, it's only them, is you have to take everyone else off. I mean, that's part of the reason why the Democrats would not recognize RFK, would not let him go head to head against Biden, why he had to become an independent, and why there's a news media blackout on RFK Jr. right now. Mind you, I don't want to vote for RFK Jr. I think he's a bad candidate. I have my reasons for that, and I can go into that. But even so, he deserves the right to be heard, not the news media blackout that they have imposed on him because he's unapproved, because he's a challenge to the Democrats and Joe Biden.
Well, they're doing the same thing to JFK Jr. I mean, JFK is getting it worse because he's not shutting his mouth, but they did the same thing to Bernie when it came to Hillary.
Yeah. Same situation, except they were able to buy off Bernie, and he jumped onto the establishment bandwagon and bought himself another house. RFK has already got the money. They can't buy him off.
So, this is the 2024 general election. Trump v. Biden v. Kennedy v. West v. Stein.
Which side is this?
This is Real Clear polling.
No. I said Real Clear Politics is not the same, but go ahead.
Okay. So, the RCP average shows Trump at 40.6, Biden at 35.6, Kennedy at 13, Stein at 2, and West at 2. Trump has a 5-point margin. Okay, and that's on the average. Kennedy, except for in the Emerson poll, is holding double digits.
Yeah, he's expected. RFK Jr. is expected to, if everything were to be today and the polls are correct, 22%. And he's taking away votes pretty much equally from Trump and from Biden. So pulling directly, almost equally from the left and the right in all the polls that I've seen and been tracking on this.
So I could actually see if the Democrats, like I said, are successful in pulling Trump off of the ballot in several states, I could see it going to the House for a vote.
It is possible. I mean, it is a very possible scenario. But I find this is still a perversion. And at the end of the day, I don't think it changes the net result. Trump's still going to win. It'll give the left a reason. Yeah, it'll give the left a reason to be upset, and they're going to be upset anyway. They're going to riot, but they were going to riot anyway. They're going to scream that it was stolen from them. They were going to do that anyway. So we haven't changed anything there.
And they will try to use it to change the election process,
which they were going
to try. They are going to try to justify it that we need a popular election, not an electoral college,
which they've been trying to do anyway. So again,
and they've been trying to do that for decades,
right? Because they know that that would pervert the outcomes. But again, none of this is new. The only thing but the consequence that is new, the down the line, the thing that is new is it is introducing voter nullification, and it introduces a precedent. This is kind of like Obamacare, where the government has a right greater than you. That's what Obamacare did. This is saying the government gets to choose whether or not you have a vote. They get to choose. Oh, you don't get, because right now I should be able to put in Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. I could put in Jan Rains or the Man in the Moon. It doesn't matter. And that's my vote. They're saying,
I still think we need to do a Kilroy write-in campaign.
Huh?
I still think we need to do a Kilroy write-in campaign.
Well, I'm fine with that. But here's the problem. They're saying none of that is valid, and they don't have that right, because that eliminates, that brings you down to, okay, government approved choice A and government approved choice B. Sorry, no, I don't trust the government to start with. They're corrupt as is, and they don't get the opportunity. This is what we see in Uganda. This is what we see in Angola. This is what we see in China and Venezuela, where you don't get a choice except the government approved choices, and they all suck.
Well, my biggest thing on this opinion that was put forth that essentially takes Trump off the ballot, even though they did issue their own injunction on that order until January 24th, is they didn't address the issues that are actually there. Okay? They only looked at whether or not Trump could be eligible to run for president.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot more issues involved with the original decision that should have been addressed.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, the judge should have never had said it is clear that Trump participated in an insurrection. He should never have said that.
Well, he invalidated his decision.
Okay.
And its consequences.
And he shouldn't, at the time that he issued his opinion on the original case, he should have said that there has been no due process to determine that Trump had participated in an insurrection. As such, he is eligible to be on the 2024 ballot.
But he
That's
knew
how he should have issued
but
his
he knew by
original
saying that
opinion.
it would take it to the Supreme Court.
Well, yeah. Again, this was done on purpose. Judges are not stupid people. They know the wording they're using, and they're very careful about their wording because they know it will be reviewed, and what they say either could cause a appeal and or it becomes precedent. So they're very careful. They're not stupid people. They know that people are always looking to game the system based on what they're doing. This was done purely for politics. They knew they were going to break America and they were going to break the election system, which is already screwed up. No matter what side you're on, no matter what I don't care if you're going Green Party or you're going Libertarian. I don't care who you want. The system's already broken as is. And he knew this would make it even more broken. But the part I think they didn't realize, they're so desperate for 2024 and fortifying 2024 under the banner of Biden and Kamala Harris, is they didn't realize the consequences of everything else this is touching on and how it destroys freedom and Americans' rights and lives. This is destroying our country, and they're not looking at that.
No, they're not. And thing is this what is going on right now? What we're seeing play out in the media, what we're seeing play out in these court cases, etc., is further proof that they are wanting to make it so that the vote of everyday Americans is no longer valid.
Yeah, they want us to be crushed. Quite honestly.
Well, and I before we went on the air, Mike, Frank Buss and I were talking about this, and I said I saw it today from several different things that now you hear out there, well, the GOP should do the same thing to Biden. Well, we need to come out and make Biden. And it's like, do you idiots realize you're doing the same exact thing that they're doing if you do that?
I've stated many times, there is no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. They do the same thing. They may promote different policies or different agendas, but if you take the policies and the agendas out and look at the rhetoric, they're the same. They are identical.
Well, it's the same damage. I mean, again, Texas, to be specific, and we were talking about this again in the green room before the show started, and I was talking with Jan. We're talking about Texas Governor Abbott saying, okay, and then we're going to hear, and again, this is a daisy chain. All the left, all the bluer than blue left-leaning states, progressive states will say, oh, we're going to take off Trump. All the right-leaning red states will say, oh, we'll take Biden off for whatever made up reason. No one has an actual legitimate reason. There is no actual crickets. And you could say, well, Biden's corrupt because using the same logic and same accusation equals guilt. Well, we know that Biden did in fact get money from China through his son's business consistently since 2015 when he was VP. That implies that he's been influence peddling. Therefore, accusation equals guilt. He's a criminal, and we can't allow him. And this is how the right, Texas and other states will take him off the ballot there. And what does that net wind up resulting in? Absolutely no difference. The people who are going to vote for Trump. The people voting for Biden, vote for Biden. We will see some more votes for RFK, telling everyone to screw off. And at the end of the day, voters are nullified. It is, again, in either scenario, voters lose, the government gains more power, and we become more autocratic. We take a step to become a third world nation in a big leap, no matter how this plays out. I don't want the left to do it. I don't want the right to do it. I blame them both. It's the same problem, no matter which side.
I don't think that either party should ever raise a question of eligibility unless it has been proven through means of due process.
Exactly. Yeah. Without having the trial, this is nothing but partisan politics meant to mold the feelings of people while taking away their power.
I don't think anybody should be ineligible for running for office.
Hmm. Hmm. There's criteria. There's criteria. I don't
Well,
want
I mean,
the Cornell
as long as
kid.
they meet the constitutional requirements.
Okay. Okay. Because, you know,
Okay, I don't think anybody should be ineligible for running for office.
right.
Okay, maybe I should have preface with that.
Well, yes.
If they meet the constitutional requirements, and that's what the left is trying to do, is say Trump doesn't meet the constitutional requirements because there is nothing in the 14th Amendment, in particular that section. Now they forget the rest of the 14th Amendment. They
Big
just look
time.
at that section that he has to be found guilty of insurrection.
Only in the way they interpret it. And I find it interesting.
Well,
They are
like I
counting
said,
on
if you
people-
look at the rest of the 14th Amendment, you find that that can't be taken away from him without due process.
But they know they are counting on the fact that Americans will not take the 30 seconds to type in 14th Amendment in a Google search bar. They are counting on the fact no one will take the 5 minutes to read through the 14th Amendment. They are counting on the fact that people will just watch the approved mainstream news media and listen to their arguments for 30 seconds saying, well, you know, a judge said that he's an insurrectionist, so he's an insurrectionist. And they are counting on people being blindsided there and not thinking 1 second beyond that. And that is insulting and evil.
Well, and again, they're using the impeachment.
And the problem is people are eating it up.
They're using the impeachment for the start of all that. So it's not just people not looking up the 14th Amendment and understanding that, as you said, but it's as Mike said earlier, it's understanding how an impeachment works.
Yeah. We are literally, at the end of the day, we are in the middle of a change, a sea change in our judicial system. And this isn't social justice reform. This isn't law, you know, social justice or law reform. This is literally introducing accusation equals guilt. This is how the Wild West, we used to have lynchings and we used to have people tar and feathered. This is how you get to that point as a government.
Well, it's
This is-
vigilante justice.
Yeah, this is vigilante justice. It's also how we get dictators in the world. This is how
their
we get
democracy that they want.
what they call big quotes around democracy. This is how you get to take over a government that should be free and should be the beacon of freedom, and you turn it into a third world nation.
Well, no, what they want is tyranny of majority until they are no longer in the majority.
Then it's just tyranny.
Okay, that is literally what they are pushing for.
Yep,
And
I
anybody
get
that's claiming
tired.
that
I
we
get
are
so
a
tired of
democracy,
almost every article you see anymore is about, and it's not just Trump. I mean, it's the MAGA party, it's the GOP, it's the white nationalist, it's the anybody who doesn't agree with our boxes. That you've got to tear it down. You can't. I'm so.
You have to. You serf, you peasant. You must obey unquestioningly. Don't question us. Don't speak up. Obey. That's what they want.
and for anybody that is in a minority race, a minority sex, anybody that is transgender, anybody that is in any type of minority, whatever that minority may be,
Except
this
for
should
women.
absolutely terrify the hell
Except for
out of
women.
you.
No, women are in there.
No, because you can't call a woman a woman. If you're
Well-
transgendered, you're a woman. If you're in women's sports, you're not protected because the trans have more rights to play in your sports than you do.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
I'm not even getting into that. I'm saying anybody that is in a minority, regardless of what that minority is.
A category, the minority category. Let's put it like that.
Right. Should be absolutely terrified when anybody says we are a democracy. Because if we are a democracy, then that means that if you are in the minority, you've lost.
Well, yeah. You always lose because by definition, you're not the majority.
But
You
the way
lose
that
every time.
the way that they use democracy is how it's tricking these people. Because you know, like I said, the articles and everything I see, everything is about they're ruining our democracy. We have to protect our democracy. We're a freaking republic. There's a huge difference.
Yeah, we're a constitutional
Understand
republic.
what the country is.
Well, no, they do know what the country is. What they know, it's a constitutional republic. They know that they are breaking it, but they're doing it.
The
on
use
purpose.
of democracy by both parties is intentional.
Well, yeah, and they're doing it so that they can maintain power. And when I say they, I mean the establishment. I don't mean left or right. I mean the establishment. People will have power and want to maintain that power, whether they're left or right, whether they're a private business or personal.
Anytime the majority, whatever the majority votes, is justification for whatever the majority wants.
Yeah, just like, and I know we're getting close to the 11 o'clock hour. I have a story that I'm really pissed off about this week.
All right, go ahead. I'm catching right back up. Go ahead.
Them removing the Confederate monument from Arlington. I am so pissed off about any other monument that they have removed, which they have had no right to remove any of them, because what people haven't understood and have cheered all the monuments being removed is the fact that all these monuments have been protected under the Veterans Act, which the Veterans Act was enacted because of the Civil War monuments. It didn't matter whether you were on the Union side or the Confederate side. That's what the Veterans Act was born from. And now they're going to remove yet another monument.
And here's the problem I have with removing monuments of any type: good, bad, or indifferent. Okay? Monuments are there as a reminder of our history.
Well, they've been trying to erase our history, especially the Confederate War, for years. I mean, they don't even want to, you know, how many times have you heard or gotten into discussions with people that the Civil War started over tariffs? No, it didn't. It started over slavery. No, the Civil War started over tariffs. The North was charging the South 70% of tariffs, and the South got pissed off about it. No,
it was a lot more than just tariffs. In fact, slavery was actually a minor part of it. The Civil War was primarily over, literally, the Civil War was
economics.
No, it wasn't economics. Okay, the Civil War was about whether or not we were going to be more of a nationalistic government or more of an independent sovereign states ran country.
Oh, you mean centralized versus deregulated?
Yes. That was literally the whole gamut of it. And that includes the economic part of it. That includes the tariffs part of it. That includes the slavery part of it. It includes all of it. Okay. And what it was the South was primarily wanting decentralization. They did not want a powerful federal government. And the North was wanting a more nationalistic government. And that was a big gist of it.
But let's get back to the overall thing here.
Right.
They keep removing our monuments that are protected in the name of feels.
I don't want them.
Erasing our history.
I do not want to remove those moments of history and those people who are honored, or either right or wrong. They are.
They were all Americans. I don't care if they were North or South. They were all Americans. The Veterans Act covers Americans.
Yes, and they deserve to have
you're saying that half of the Americans of this country don't count. I'm a descendant of a Confederate soldier. I'm a descendant of a revolutionary soldier. I'd be pissed off if they were taking their monuments down too.
They have tried. They have tried to take.
I know.
And that's insulting to me. You don't destroy this history again. And what's the reasoning for it? Feelings. Because they have a feeling.
If we go through the atrocities of the Civil War,
every war has atrocities.
What about the atrocities of the Vietnam War? So we're going to start removing the Vietnam War memorials? What about the atrocities of World War II? Are we going to start removing World War II monuments? What about the atrocities of World War I?
And of all places, this is Arlington National Cemetery.
Exactly. War is an atrocity. Everything that happens in war is an atrocity. We know this. That's why no one wants war. But that has nothing to do with the memorialization of individuals and moments and history. Those are separate of that. I mean, think about it. If the reasoning is, oh, well, that was such an atrocity, should we get rid of all the monuments to the Holocaust? Should we forget about that moment in history? Should we forget about that abject? And I'm taking it from the negative side, because again, the monument isn't, the point isn't whether it's a positive.
It is advocating what they stood for.
Right. This is that moment.
It is a reminder of that moment in time.
Right. And that's the important thing, that we don't forget that history, the good and the bad of it, and all of the sacrifices made by all of the individuals. Let's learn from this. That's why there is a monument. It goes to what you're supposed to only hear a 30-second soundbite. And of course, you have to have a feeling. Some progressive elite somewhere had a feeling. What's her name? Catherine Gay of Harvard had a feeling.
Oh,
and you are supposed to have her feeling now.
Here's why those monuments need to be removed. They are microaggression.
Screw that. Everything breathing is a microaggression.
Well, you know what? I want all the damn George Floyd monuments taken down.
There you go. Microaggression right there. I agree with you. And God knows we don't need a monument to George Floyd, the criminal addict. I have no respect for that man. He died badly because he made bad choices in his life. Period. Full stop. Done.
And then the other story to go along with that I saw that pissed me off is another damn reparations. Now your lovely governor.
Oh yeah, Hocho's trying to figure out. We're going to.
You know what?
Nobody
alive today has anything to do with slavery, as far as that time period. Nobody alive.
Yeah, we can't afford it. By the way, the other thing is we can't afford it. There's no justification for it. We can't identify who gets it and who doesn't. What? I got brothers and sisters who are, they're lighter. They're as light skinned. God, probably lighter than both of you. And do they get some of the reparations too? They're my brothers and sisters. Just because they're light skinned.
I'm 1% black. Does that mean I get the reparations?
Exactly my point. Where do we draw these lines?
Here's the thing. There was a large population of black people that owned slaves.
Yes, I know.
Exactly.
So again,
how do you determine
who were the ones in
which
Africa?
of the black people were slave owners and which of the black people weren't? And then are you going to take from those black people that were slave owners in order to give reparations to those that were?
Well, who were the ones in Africa capturing the black people to put the black people on the ships?
Well, that's
The
if we were
black
to.
people.
That's if we
Okay.
were to make.
And then the next
them pay for
thing
it, but- yeah, go ahead.
is, can you prove when your family, your heritage, your ancestry actually came to this country? Was it
Yes.
pre-Civil War or was it post-Civil War?
Actually, yes, you can somewhat determine that. That's
Yes,
not a criteria.
genealogists can do that.
Yeah,
My
that-
sister's a genealogist, so she's proven when I mean, I brought up the argument. I was talking to my roommate the other day about this because it just it just pissed me off. It's so should I call for reparations because the King of England wanted to murder my family and some of us escaped?
We can. It's the same
I mean,
reasoning.
where are
It's
we
the same
going
reasoning.
with this?
We're not going anywhere. This is meant to break the country. Financially, it breaks the country. Emotionally, it divides the nation. It dehumanizes and categorizes individuals. You're slave class, you're not slave class, you are owner class. So this is another fracture point in America. This is another way to divide individuals, to interject feelings of some progressive into average Americans that don't have to have this feeling, a way to divide families. It is a way to break the nation, and it does not help anyone. This will not make anything better for anyone in 2023 or 2024. It does nothing but keep Kathy Hochul in power, because some people will be hoping for free stuff and they will reelect Kathy Hochul and the Democrats so that they can get that supposedly free stuff. That's all this is. They are buying an election. That's all that is. It's coercion. That's it. It's insulting. And they know it. And if anyone were.
Well, and we're getting to a point where children aren't being taught our history, and we know what happens when you're not taught history. It repeats.
Absolutely. And this is why we're going back to the Middle Ages. These elected officials are becoming more and more of neo-nobles, and I've said it several times today, and I've said it in many shows, we're becoming serfs and peons. We are peasants. We don't have voices. We don't have any choice in the matter. This is getting really, really bad. We are moving backwards.
Let's get to the truth of the matter on this. Okay. The truth of the matter is, regardless, less than 30% of the entire South owned slaves.
Yeah.
Most of them did. The North didn't
No,
own
they
any
didn't.
slaves. The North had
And-
nothing
and
to
the
do
thing
with
is,
slavery.
as a lot of the people trying to fight for this say that South Carolina had as high as 50% of the people owned at least 1% of slaves. But in most areas, that percentage was 20% or less in most areas of the South.
Yeah, but I don't care about the percentages. I don't care. I know there were some Northerners that owned slaves, and I don't care. I don't care. There's no reason. There is no benefit to this. This is not effective. It is not efficient. It is divisive. It is a way to break the country. This is not natural. This is astroturf, as they like to say. This is
Well,
merely being done to keep people in power.
My ancestors personally didn't own slaves, but again, my point is, we are over 100 years out of that. What does somebody who had family 100 years ago who did own slaves have to do with today?
Okay.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay. Time for the devil's advocate. I know the argument for this. The answer to just so you know what the argument is they will make about this. The slaves created the infrastructure and the foundation of everything that has been built upon it. And since everything was built upon that foundation they created, therefore they claim the entitlement, because without that foundation, nothing else could be built. So you
Yes,
talk
I've
about
heard,
your road.
I've heard that argument.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
argument.
that is actually the whole premise behind reparations.
Yeah, and I get it. I get that argument. But again, it does not.
It's actually a
benefit.
false argument.
Well, there's a lot of problems with it, but my point is irrelevant. That is essentially irrelevant because it does not resolve any problem that is occurring today. It only creates
doesn't.
more problems. It does
It
not
actually,
resolve anything.
You're right. It compounds it.
And
Well,
that,
Okay.
again,
And a lot of people are saying that.
like Mike pointed out, that's only a percentage, a small percentage, which proves that it wasn't the slaves that built this country. Did they have a hand in parts of it? Well, yeah.
no, they had a good amount of building foundations, sure. But again, that's not enough of a reason. Not versus
No.
the consequences and the compounding of problems on every
Well,
level.
and like I said before, when it comes to all the monuments they're tearing down, because it has to do with the South, the Confederate side, the North owned slaves too.
Yeah,
we-
it is.
We're erasing that from our history. We don't want people to know, oh no, the North didn't own any slaves.
And actually, there were still a lot of slaves owned after the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah.
In the
And
North.
more by the North than the South.
Well, that's taking away indentured servitude and the a lot of the factory workers, which were quasi slaves at the time as well. A lot of playing of words. But yeah, go ahead.
Regardless on any of that, okay, yes, slavery was a black mark on our history, but we were a country with the shortest duration of slavery compared to any other country.
True.
Number one. Number two, we were at the forefront of abolishing slavery globally. We were one of the first nations, not the first nation, but one of the first nations to abolish slavery and to start working on abolishing it globally.
But you can
And what
look
set
at
that in motion was the Constitution, which a lot of people try to falsely claim is a pro-slavery document.
No, it's not. Not at all.
But I look at it too, and I look at, okay, they focus so much on slavery, the way they focus on guns, and they say that America is the worst. And like you just said, we're not the only country that this happens in. You started off the top of the show with the Poland or wherever it was story.
Czech Republic.
Mass shooting.
Czechoslovakia.
None of this, according to our politicians, none of this happens in any other country.
Every nation, every culture has owned slaves at some point in history.
There are more slaves in the world today than there have ever been in the history of mankind. That's a fact. Right now. Right now.
You know, look back. Look at what happened to the Irish people.
And
it wasn't in America.
And I hate to admit it, even as anti-slave as we are in this country, slavery still exists in the United States.
Oh, yeah. We call it human trafficking instead. It's the same thing. We just have a different word for it because progressives sleep better at night hearing human trafficking than slave. And we have allowed the left to pigeonhole all the concept. Literally, we have pigeonholed in America. We have pigeonholed the concept of slavery and put this up on a wall and locked it in there that it means 1865. It is like a moment frozen in history, and that word slavery is stamped right on top of it, and it can't exist anywhere else in the world or at any other time. It is only that moment. And that is so stupid. That is assuming so much ignorance, and why we don't talk about slavery right now in the world, why there's more slavery today than ever. Why? In part because we keep saying, well, slavery is the Civil War. No, it's current. It's current day.
Yeah, not to get off this subject, but it just hit me, and I think it's important before we do go off, because I want to hear you guys discuss this. Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, the list.
They're supposed to come out on the 1st.
Well, no, it'll be the 2nd.
Well,
It's supposed to be functionally, because everything shut down on the 1st. So,
well, and I heard the reason why the judge said after the 1st was because he wanted to give the people whose names were in it time to put in their arguments on to why their names shouldn't be released.
Actually, they did. The judge did. It's part of the decision. Yeah, they gave them the opportunity.
They shouldn't have a decision. Not in my opinion.
Well,
these people committed crimes. They're in his book. We want the names.
Wait a minute, but here's the thing. The list that they're putting out isn't just the names of the people who were committing crimes. The list also includes individuals who were victims. The victims, and also staffers who may or may not have contributed or may not have had choices. There are other individuals besides just the oppressors, or what's the word I'm looking for? The criminals are not the only ones in that list of 170. It's not 100.
I want to know why people. Charges haven't been filed on any of them.
That's the different question. That's the more important question, because if we got to this point,
less. I don't necessarily want to see the list. I want to see the people that are guilty or suspected. Actually, let me change that. The people that are suspected of committing these atrocities that happened on Epstein Island be charged.
Because what's going to happen is, this is why they've gone the route of just the names. Accusation equals guilt. Oh, they've all been, see, we've made them all guilty. We don't have to go any further. We don't have to investigate anything, because if you investigate, then you have a thread, and that thread leads somewhere, which is corruption. There is a web of corruption surrounding this. Everyone is aware.
That's really what they're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Is they don't want the web of deceit, the web of corruption that is currently ongoing in our country to be exposed.
Yeah. And the best way
if you don't think that we are not an extremely corrupt country, then you have not been paying attention.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, not as bad as some countries, though. I'll give us that.
No, we're not as corrupt as some. Granted.
But we are corrupt. There is no question about that. There is lots of corruption. No question. Left, right, center, doesn't matter. There is corruption in America.
The thing is if that web of corruption that does exist in this country is ever exposed, our government would be brought to its knees.
Yeah, we would need a massive purge and restart on a lot of things. Absolutely. But we should purge and restart.
And that's our right to do, because that's in our declaration.
Yeah. It's a fundamental part of who we are as a nation. It's our foundation.
It's a fundamental right of all people.
Well, yes.
Okay. I mean, it is literally a fundamental inherent right of all people. And it's been happening since the beginning of time. That people have stood up and overthrown governments that were oppressing them. It typically takes a lot for a people to do so, but it has been happening since the beginning of time.
Right, but I'm saying ours is specifically written into our declaration that we have. I mean, yes, it's a fundamental right, but ours is specifically written into our Declaration of Independence.
It's highlighted whereas it's a known in other cultures, ours is foundationally highlighted based on that. I get your point, Jen. My thought is, though, to go to this list. The only reason why we're getting this list, and by the way, how many years did it take to get this? They're playing the long game. How many people have forgotten? How far out of the memory of people? How far out are we? We're distancing from this. We've allowed people to get themselves away, to get their stories straight, to set up the blockages of them versus everything else. That's all taking place in the background. People have forgotten the impact, the shock and anger behind this that existed at the time, all dissipated. Now
that's why they did it for this long. So the people that are in that book that are
they're trying to protect,
allegedly to have committed a crime, it's so that they could cover their asses. We know that because it's corrupt part of the system. They're in on it. What was it before this judge came down with this? It went in front of Congress. How many Democrats and Republicans up there said, "Oh no, you can't release names. No, can't release names."
Yeah, there is absolutely no reason why at this point, where the government has had the list, they've had Ghislaine Maxwell convicted, in prison, and they've had the book. They could have been doing investigations throughout all these years, and we could have not just criminals tried, but we could have had people convicted by now, already done. This could all be done already. It isn't.
I tie it all back into what you guys were talking about last week, and this is my opinion. I fully tie it into stuff that you were saying, boss, last week about the intern incident. Does it have to do? It's they're holding something over somebody's head. He did it to hold something over somebody's head to get what he wanted.
Oh yeah, it's not about, it's not that he was the target. Someone else is the target.
And that's why I believe it's taken this long to even get it to a point where a judge finally said, we're going to release it because they're giving everybody a chance to CYA.
Yeah, they pretty much all done it.
You can't let the corruption be known. You can't let, I mean, we've all speculated on names that can be on this list.
Yeah.
And if those names came out and were convicted, it'd be the end.
It would have a lot of repercussions. But again, all the energy behind this has dissipated. Kind of the same reason why the Tennessee shooter, the Tennessee trans shooter, disappeared from the news media. All the energy's gone. How many times did they promise the manifesto? No, we can't have it. We can't have it. When we finally did get proof of the manifesto, got to see a couple of parts of the manifesto, they attacked the messenger because they couldn't denounce it. It was literally the manifesto parts of it that we got to see that we weren't supposed to see. And they came down like a ton of bricks on the messenger because they couldn't attack the message. Again, it's the same methodology and the same impetus behind it. People are covering their asses all over the place. They don't want people to see the web of corruption and the consequences of that web of corruption.
Well, what it truly amounts to, is that's just one aspect of corruption. And the threads that are going to come out of that are going to expose other parts of, as Trump liked to say, the swamp, the deep state. And it will literally show how all these individuals are tied together. And it will, if it was fully investigated, as it should be, instead of weaponizing our agencies against the American population, they should be doing stuff to eliminate this, but they are just as involved as everybody else.
Yeah, of course. The corruption is widespread and deep. It goes into everything because it's been happening for a long, long time. Not unlike other governments. The difference is we're the only ones who are still looking around saying, no, but we're good. Corruption doesn't exist here. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. The corruption
And the thing is, as you pointed out, okay, this corruption has been ongoing for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is this whole Epstein episode is just a small, tiny knot in this tangle of corruption. That's all it is. And the thing is, if we do unravel that knot,
it could be the string that starts unraveling everything, and that's what they're afraid of.
Exactly. It's going to lead to other knots.
If it had the emotion it initially started with, and if we were actually able to look at the investigations and see where they went. But instead, they let the energy out, and now we're going
what's going to end up happening.
What?
Think about what's happened in the interim between the initial release of them having the Epstein list and now. The whole misinformation campaign.
What? What do you mean?
The whole push of everything is misinformation. Unless we approve it is misinformation.
Yeah, that's a byproduct. That's not directly tied to this, but yes, that's been happening since. Yeah.
No, that is a cover.
Yeah, but I don't think
that is one of the things they will use.
Oh yeah, I could see someone trying to say, "Oh well, this this isn't proven. It's misinformation, disinformation." To have this person or that person, or to try and find the corruption.
They did it with the flight log.
Well, yeah.
They
how many times was Bill Clinton on the? How many times was Bill Clinton on the flight?
They will use misinformation to exonerate a lot of these people that are involved, guaranteed.
Yeah, but they always were. They were always going to do that anyway.
And there's going to be, well, yeah, they may have been on the list, but that doesn't mean that they're involved in anything.
And they're always they've already been saying that. They said that about
Bill.
And
I guarantee the word Russia will come up in it too.
Bound to. Bound to. I mean, I imagine every spy agency in the world is somehow connected to Epstein's island, purposefully or tangentially, because too many figures of too much power. Every country would have a spy on the staff, whether they admit it or not is another thing. But yeah, of course, because that just gives you another person something to hang over someone to get them to do what you want. I'm sure
that's the biggest thing in the spy game is having leverage.
Yeah. I'm sure every spy agency in the world knew everybody on every single flight going into and out of, and every way to get into and out of that island. I guarantee you, every spy agency has a file on it. Every one of them have all of the people that were there. They've got photos and video. I guarantee you. But that's not for the public.
Well, I was saying more so I mean, I agree 100% with you guys, but I was saying more so going off of what Michael was saying about the disinformation, because we know Russia's behind everything.
Well, that'll be the excuse. That's the out.
Well, that's
I
what I'm
was-
saying. You know, Russia's going to come up in there somewhere.
Of course, they're going to find a
Russia
100.
may or they may try to find another scapegoat. China could be one.
They're going to use several different types of scapegoats for some of these people. Business, political, didn't know I was innocent the first time, whatever. They're going to use a whole bunch of cover stories, but none of it means anything. When that list comes out, means nothing
No.
without the investigation, which we
And
should have already
that's the
completed.
whole thing is and as I prefaced before, okay, honestly, I want to know why the DOJ, the FBI, and whatever other agencies need to be involved aren't doing their jobs.
Because they're
And
busy fortifying
It
the
comes
2020.
down to they're just
Well,
as screwed
it's the
up.
same argument with the
They're
laptop.
probably involved as much.
It's the same argument with the laptop.
Because they know the outcome. They know what the answer is already. The laptop, the diary, they already know what the answer is. They already know where it leads. They
Oh.
don't want anyone else to get there.
I know we're going on 2.5 hours, but I have to bring this up
What's that?
because it is just too hilarious. And I didn't get to it before Frank left. Guess what defense Mr. Hunter Biden is using?
Oh, for which charge?
For his charges in Delaware. Second Amendment.
Oh yeah, I saw that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. That was months ago. We knew that was coming.
Well, and he also came out and said you can't fault a drug addict for owning an arm.
He's tried the sympathy route. He's tried empathy. He's tried. He's tried again. They're just going down the list of everything.
He is trying to use the Second Amendment
Mhm.
to say that essentially the form that he was to fill out
Mhm.
is unconstitutional and is a violation of his Second Amendment rights, which I actually hope he succeeds.
Well, here's my thing on that. He wasn't making a protest when he did that. He was just taking advantage of the leverage that he had, and he's using it now retroactively to go back. He's retroactively applying that to his actions then. The fact is, and going by the Democrats using their rules, this is the law, and he needs to be punished on the law as it exists. And in fact, the same thing about protesters. Yes, you can say the law is wrong, but you still suffer the penalty until the law gets changed.
Mhm.
The law is the law until the law is changed. The law
And
exists,
like I said,
and I want it changed.
I
Doesn't
hope
excuse him.
his Second Amendment arguments are successful.
Mhm.
Because if they are, that would do away with the 4473s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It could also be a very detrimental thing to the NFA.
Which I would like to see. National Firearms Act of 1934, for people who don't know
Yep.
what that is.
Which, again, as I
Mhm.
pointed out, even back in Delano Roosevelt's time, we were arguing the same arguments we are today.
We were arguing, actually, I believe the first Second Amendment argument was back in 1809, if I remember it correctly. I think that's the first Supreme Court challenge on it, or if I remember it. I thought it was 1809.
No, Miller was 34 because it's shortly after the NFA came out.
Right. But there's been challenges before then. There have been challenges before. They were not successful, but there were challenges. And I believe the first challenge that rose up was a case in 1809. I may be misremembering the exact date. But that being said,
Now,
what?
Suppressor?
What?
You are right. There are some cases before Miller. I want to say Presser.
See, what Mike's doing as he's being absolutely silent right now is he's trying to go backwards in time through the various Supreme Court cases dealing with the Second Amendment.
I'm actually trying to roll through my head, trying to remember, because I've actually done a lot of research into this, and I was actually trying to remember that particular case.
Yeah.
Which I'm drawing a blank on it right now.
Yeah, I'm not remembering exactly, but I know it's before the NFA. But here's the thing. I want to see, I am asking for only what the Democrats have suggested. This is the law. Execute the law as it exists. You want to change the law? We change the law, but that doesn't excuse what he did. These are their rules. These are their terms. This is what the left has put down as their flag in the ground. This is where they want to live and die. Fantastic. And Hunter has to live and die by those rules too, because the rest of us do. He doesn't get to get off and try and jump and piggyback on the work everyone else has done just because he's influential. Either what's good for the goose is good for the gander all the way through. And when it's all spoiled, everyone gets the spoiled milk. That includes Hunter.
Here's what I actually see end up happening is that he is successful in his Second Amendment challenge.
No, not going to happen.
No, hold on.
Go ahead.
Finish.
Go ahead.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
He is successful in his Second Amendment challenge. Okay. But it doesn't go any further because it's never appealed. So it doesn't result in a law getting removed. It may result in his charges being exonerated, but it doesn't change the actual law that resulted in his charges being.
That won't happen. My reason why that wouldn't happen is that would be creating a precedent in law that the very next person charged will, and people would be going ape shit about it. And the very next person who gets to a trial is going to use that as the precedent to allow them out. And that's going to cause a change in the law because everyone's going to be pulling the Hunter precedent. No, I don't think that's it. I think what they wind up doing, because it causes the least damage politically as well as in terms of their goals with the Second Amendment, is they let Hunter, he's going to be guilty. He's going to get the absolute minimum of all the charges possible. And then his father gives him a pardon. He gets the presidential pardon and walks away. He'll spend.
He can only give him a presidential pardon if the charges are federal charges.
He does have some federal charges. He does have some federal charges.
Those would be the only ones that Biden could pardon him for.
Yeah, but he'll get probation and everything else. They don't care. He's not going to get any serious time on the state side. Federal, absolute to the minimums, just enough so that his son, hang out for a month or two in a very, very nice, cushy, club-fed kind of prison, well protected from anyone and everyone else. It'll cost us 3 times as much as it should for him to actually go to prison. He'll be like Jesse Smollett. And, by the time he gets in, it'll be just about the week before he gets the pardon. He'll go in, he'll be there for a week. It'll cost us 3 times as much money as it should. And then he'll get pardoned and he'll be out. That's what's going to happen. This way they get to continue to attack the Second Amendment. They don't need to make any changes, and there's no precedent. And then they say, see, we stood up. We said these are the laws, and we even enforced it against our own. Aren't we good people? Re-elect us because we're stand-up people. No, you were forced to do this, and you have been avoiding it for years upon years, pulling every trick out of your ass that you could to either delay it or to try and get this absolved and thrown out, including the initial plea deal, which was ridiculous on its face. They've done everything, but they're going to count on people not remembering. So they can say, see, we held them to the same standard we hold you. We're upstanding people. We did the right thing. No, they didn't. This is all corrupt. That's where I stand, what I believe about it. I would prefer to a certain extent that you're right, Mike, because that creates the Hunter precedent, and the Hunter precedent could then be used by others. But I think they're going to go my route.
What he's actually being charged with, he's got 2 counts of making false statements on federal firearms form, and another count of possessing a firearm as a drug dealer.
Yeah,
those are filed in Delaware.
What about the other 9? He has 9 more charges.
9 tax charges are in California.
They weren't all tax charges.
Yeah, 9. He was indicted by Weiss last week on 9 tax charges in California, alleging he schemed to avoid paying $1.4 million in taxes between 2016 and 2019.
As I recall, there's also another charge which is related to firearms, or I thought it was firearm, in among the financial charges. It wasn't just financial. There was another charge in there.
No, there's 3 federal gun charges and 9 tax charges.
I remember
he's got 11 indictments against him.
I remember a 12th indictment. I don't remember which one it is.
I don't see any other.
Okay. Could be my confusion. I remember there being another one.
But here is his argument. Because persons protected by the Second Amendment can no longer be denied gun ownership due to past drug use.
That's the argument.
Practice inconsistent with this nation's historical tradition on firearm regulation. Any false statement by Mr. Biden concerning his status as having used controlled substances is no longer applicable, they wrote. Quite simply, asking Mr. Biden's status as a user of a controlled status is constitutionally irrelevant whether he can be denied.
So he's saying because he doesn't use drugs today, that him filling out that form and not saying he was a drug user at the time is null and void.
No, because they asked about his drug use at all.
It was inconsistent, even though the ruling came after he made that statement.
You know where he got this argument from, don't you?
Red flag law, the people on the Knicks?
No. I can't remember what state it is in, but before all this happened with Hunter, there was a guy that is in court. This case has been ongoing, that he's been arguing the same thing. You can't tell me I can't have a firearm because I'm a drug addict or because I smoke weed. Actually, you have no right to ask me that question. And he was convicted, and this has been the argument since then. Well, I saw when Hunter first came out and talked about, well, I'm going to fight the drug addict question. Do you use drug on the questionnaire? This case was stated.
There's actually several cases about it, and I remember this going back.
Yeah, there's an August ruling. Hold on a second, I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, but there's a couple of other cases, and I recall myself doing research, and actually I had an article about this back in 2011, if I remember it still correctly, where it's about a NICS, and it's about you can be taking even prescription drugs, any drug usage, prescription or non-prescription, would allow states, in particular New York State, to place an individual on the NICS database, which is a database to prevent you from owning a firearm. It was a big deal. Tons of people were upset. I remember I wrote an article about it overnight. It got like 20,000 hits on the article itself. So this has been an old argument. They're just referencing it now for Hunter, probably looking at one of the better cases to bolster his claim. But this is an old argument. And in every case up till now, the individual has lost.
Well,
Every
I'm
single
sorry, but I feel that you shouldn't have to fill out a piece of damn paperwork to tell the government you want to own a gun.
Well, I agree with you. But again, I only want to hold Hunter to the standard that the Democrats have held everyone else to.
Well, and how many people have been convicted under that standard?
That's too many. As far as I'm aware, there are some, I believe it was, and again, this is 2011 numbers, something like 7,000 people were being put in there for taking things like Ambien and antidepressant drugs by New York State. By New York State alone.
Well, and like Frank said one time, how many people have been convicted because they've misspelled something on it, or they've forgotten a date and made the date wrong, or I mean, they can convict you for anything on that form.
Yes.
If it's not right.
Yes. Which is why I want to see Hunter convicted to the fullest extent of the law and punished in the same matter of fact, I want him punished worse than everyone else. Why? Because of his status, because of his family, to make the point. If they truly believe in the laws and as they tell us they do, if they believe in that enforcing these laws prevents death and crime, they absolutely
Actually,
nail him to the wall forever.
You know what's going to happen?
What?
This gives the DOJ a means to get out of it. They are going to drop the charges based upon the Fifth Circuit's ruling.
What do you mean? On the most recent Fifth Circuit ruling? I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
That's how they save face.
Because that's the precedent.
That is how they save face.
They adopt that precedent. There's too many other cases that they would have to drop along with Hunter. And it shows
they don't care about the other cases.
Well, there's thousands of them.
Hunter is a political time bomb.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with it. They've already tried to get out of it. And
but he's
back into it.
He's a time.
And this Fifth Circuit ruling gives them a way out of the gun charges.
Yeah, but Hunter's a time bomb with a limited shelf life. He's only applicable to 2024. They just got to get through November. They just got to get through November.
If they drop the charges, they don't have a ruling against them.
Yeah, but even if he's guilty and he gets the pardon, it doesn't matter. They just got to get through November.
If they drop the charges and they don't have a ruling against him,
they don't care about
then they can go after the other other charges that they've got passing. Okay, if Hunter is successful with his argument, now you've got two circuits that made that rule. If they drop the charges in Delaware, drop the gun charges, citing the Fifth decision, that gives them means out and still keeps their other ongoing drug-related gun ownership charges intact.
No, because the government has now recognized the Fifth Circuit. They're not compartmentalizing their laws.
Drop it.
I understand.
And they will drop it saying, we don't feel we can win this case based upon the arguments being forthcoming.
Well, the prosecution can always drop the case. I just don't see that being. I don't see them taking that tack because of how it's going to. The backlash from that's going to be enormous.
No, as long as the tax charges stay.
No, the public backlash is going to be enormous.
as long as the tax charges stay, I don't think they'll get that much backlash.
I think they would. I think they absolutely would, even with the tax charges, which obviously are not the most important ones. But
Yeah.
But
As an
they're trying to-
American citizen, on one end, I want the 2A aspect to win out. But on the other end, I want this man convicted so
Well,
badly.
I think they
before
will
it's
drop it
extended
because
law.
if they don't drop it, it does put that Fifth Circuit decision into another jurisdiction. And if that jurisdiction, okay, or that circuit doesn't agree, follow the same ruling as Fifth Circuit, it automatically gets bumped up to the Supreme Court.
yeah, that's
Okay. Once it gets there, then there is no.
no. I get it.
Okay.
I get what you're
Right
saying.
now, they can limit it to so that only applies in the 5th District by dropping the charges in Delaware.
I get it.
Well, guys, it's getting close to 3 hours.
Yeah, which is great for Sunday in the afternoon, but not Friday night.
Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. As usual, okay, one of the best things that you can do to help us out is to like, share, and comment, subscribe. It helps us with the algorithms. Okay, a lot of content that is of conservative nature is being subverted. And the thing is people still make a difference. They can subvert the algorithms. But you have to do something. Okay. Failure to participate ends up meaning that they win. Okay. It is as truthful with social media as it is with government. If you don't want to participate, then they win. Plain and simple.
Mhm.
Okay. You want to get our voices heard? Then start sharing the conservative comments. Start sharing this stuff. Okay. They can't block it all. Okay. When you share it, you subvert the algorithms. So we are the ones in control, even though they would like you to believe that we're not. We are the ones in control. So I'm not going to go into a long diatribe or anything else like that. We're going to go ahead and end the show. We're here every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We do look forward to everyone joining us. We appreciate everybody that's in the chat tonight, and we will see you again next week. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jan.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas to everyone watching.
Merry Christmas.